Hello, my name is Joey Sedilla, and this is my media timeline. So, to start off, I'm going to go all the way back to the ancient times. So, the first forms of communication and writing was through the use of stones. Ancient Egyptians would carve symbols into the stones to communicate. This stone communication was later switched to something called papyrus. Papyrus has been found to have dated all the way back to 2680 to 2540 BC. Papyrus was an extremely light medium to use. It was made from a plant called cypress papyrus that was restricted in its habitat to the Nile Delta and was manufactured into writing material near the marshes it was found. This writing material was then used in what is known as papyrus. Another medium of writing used back then was alluvial clay, which was found in Babylonia and Assyria, although this medium is not used as frequently as the others. Lastly, the Incas used a system that included color-coded threads that were knotted in different patterns. This system was called a quipu. Quipus date back all the way to 2600 BC. Moving along, we have woodblock printing and movable type. Woodblock printing, which is the top image, is a technique for printing text, images, or patterns used as a method of printing on textiles and later paper. The text was printed out on paper and cut out. It was then glued to a woodblock and the text was engraved into the wood. The wood was then dipped in ink and pressed against a paper. Woodblock printing was established in 600 AD. Movable type, which is pictured on the bottom, is a system and technology of printing and typography that uses movable components to reproduce the elements of a document, usually on the medium of paper. Movable type was invented in 1040 AD. The printing press was invented by Johann Gutenberg in 1440. The printing press made printing easier and more efficient. The invention of the printing press created the ability for people to mass produce important articles such as newspapers or books. It did this not just with more efficiency, but also with better quality as well. Printing swept across the world, all the way from China to Korea, because of the printing press. In 1876, the telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell. The telephone revolutionized the way people were able to communicate with one another. It allowed people to communicate with one another over longer distances and without the face-to-face interaction. It added a convenience factor to people's lives back then. The telephone has become a huge part of our society today. It is the main source of all communication, and it is also the main source of everyone's knowledge. If people are finding out about new stuff nowadays, it's most likely through the telephone. Next up, we have possibly two of the most important inventions throughout this entire timeline, the telegraph and Morse code. Telegraph was a key innovation during the Industrial Revolution, which soon spread across the world. Extensive systems appeared across Europe by the latter part of the 19th century, and by 1866, the first permanent telegraph cable had been successfully laid across the Atlantic Ocean. There were 40 such telegraph lines across the Atlantic by 1940. The electric telegraph transformed how wars were fought, how money was sent, and how newspapers conducted business. Rather than taking weeks to be delivered by horse and carriage mail carts, pieces of news could be exchanged between telegraph stations almost instantly. The telegraph also had a profound economic effect, allowing money to be wired across great distances. Morse code was a code that assigned letters in the alphabet and numbers a set of dots, or short marks, and dashes, which were long marks, based on the frequency of use. Letters used often, such as E, got a simple code, while those used infrequently, or not as often, such as Q, got a longer and more complex code. The great thing about these two inventions and why they were so important, especially during the 20th century, is because of their effect in the wars. These two inventions made the lives of the leaders of the different nations in the war much easier and overall better, made them better strategizers because of how they were able to use the code and the telegraph to get information across long distances, to help their troops with battle plans or spread opponents' battle plans that could help their troops. It was just good all around. Next up, we have the radio, which was invented in 1895. Radio fostered a real-time national conversation during challenging times of Depression and World War. It became the single greatest force before television and the internet in developing a mass culture of sports, entertainment, news, and advertising. In the boom of the 1920s, people rushed to buy radios, and business and social structures adapted to the new medium. Universities began to offer radio-based courses, churches began broadcasting their services, newspapers created tie-ins with radio broadcasts. Overall, I firmly believe that the radio was a great invention and was a platform for the technological innovations that we have made over the past 20, 30 years. This is probably my personal favorite because of how much it affects my life. But the television, which became a staple in people's households in the 1940s and 50s, largely due to the Americans watching television during prime time more than ever during those time periods. Some famous radio programs were even made into television shows. Television's popularity grew because of the visual component that was missing from the radio. Some popular TV shows during these time periods include Gunsmoke, I Love Lucy, and The Ed Sullivan Show. Some of the most popular channels during these time periods include NBC, CBS, and ABC, which were also the three main channels during these time periods. Lastly, we move on to the area that we all live in now, which I like to call the new era. Over the past 20 and 30 years, like I said, we've become so much more technologically advanced with the inventions of smart TVs, smartphones, smartwatches, smart remotes, smart tablets, the inventions of gaming systems like the PlayStation, Xbox, handheld devices like the Nintendo Switch, powerful gaming devices such as the PC. Overall, we have just become a technological powerhouse. We're able to find news from all over the world with the click of a button in the matter of seconds. All of the world news is at our fingertips, basically. And I guess I just could never think of growing up in a society without this much technology because of how much it impacts my daily life. The video game systems I play a lot. I love playing video games in my free time when I have nothing to do. I love getting on with friends and just talking about our days and having fun. I use my phone for basically everything. I average like 7 hours a day of screen time on it, so I'm on it a lot. Social media has played a huge part in our society in the past probably 10 years. It's just overall become such a powerhouse. It's unbelievable. But that's all. Thanks for listening.